Before the revolts, before the silver coins, before the word Israel returned, there was a quiet revolution. A revolution not fought with swords, but with scripture. This is the moment identity was reborn. The Great Revolt coin wasn't the beginning. Shekel Israel. It wasn't the beginning. It was the echo of something older, something that started 2 centuries earlier. In the HASMONEAN period, around the mid-2nd century BCE, a new kind of Jew emerged. One who didn't just live by tradition, but by text. This was the first time Jews began to keep the Torah as a national law. I repeat that. This was the first time Jews began to keep the Torah as a national law. Not as scattered customs, not as priestly rituals, but as a binding constitution. This was the first time. And with that shift came something else. A new name, a new identity, a new myth to live by. The Torah wasn't just a book of laws. It was a story about a people called Israel. When the HASMONEANs adopted the Torah, they weren't just adopting commandments. They were adopting the story itself. They began to see themselves not only as Judeans, but as the heirs of that ancient narrative. The children of Jacob, the tribes of Israel, the people of covenant and promise. Israel became more than geography. It became identity. Archaeology gives us glimpses of this transformation. Coins from John Hyrcanus I, dated to 120s and 110s BCE, carry inscriptions like Yohanan the high priest, head of the assembly of the Jews. Let me repeat that. I'm saying that archaeology gives us glimpses of this transformation, where Israel became more than geography, it became identity. What does archaeology tell us? Coins from John Hyrcanus I, dated to the 120s and 110s BCE, carry inscriptions like Yehonan the high priest, head of the assembly of the Jews. Notice what's missing. Israel. It doesn't say Yohanan the high priest, head of the assembly of Israel. No, it says head of the assembly of the Jews. Israel is missing. Even in this early HASMONEAN phase, the identity is still Jew, not Israel. But this is the seed moment, the period when Jews begin to live by the Torah, to read the stories of Israel, to internalize the myth that will later appear on coins and inscriptions. By the time of the Great Revolt, that myth had matured into a national symbol. The HASMONEANs didn't just fight foreign rule. They fought for definition, for what it meant to be a Jew. They purified the temple. They re-established priestly authority. They enforced Torah observance. And in doing so, they created a new cultural memory. The Torah became the mirror. And in that mirror, they saw Israel. This was the moment when the biblical identity, invented centuries earlier by scribes and storytellers, finally entered the bloodstream of the people. It's good I repeat this. The HASMONEANs didn't just fight foreign rule. They didn't just do that. They fought for definition, to define something. They fought for what it meant to be a Jew. What did they do? They purified the temple. They re-established priestly authority. They enforced Torah observance. And in doing so, they created a new cultural memory. The Torah became the mirror. And in that mirror, they saw Israel. This was the moment when the biblical identity, invented centuries earlier by scribes and storytellers, finally entered the bloodstream of the people. It didn't happen overnight. For centuries, inscriptions still said Jew or Judean. But beneath the surface, the word Israel was growing in prayers, in imagination, in scripture. By the time the revolts erupted, the people were ready to speak the word aloud. Israel had become the sacred name of resistance. So, if the HASMONEANs planted the seed and the revolts made it bloom, what happened next? How did this new identity survive exile? How did this new identity survive empire? And how did this new identity survive centuries of silence? In the next episode, The Survival of the Name, as I've titled it, we follow the word Israel through the ruins, through the synagogues, and through the tombs to see how a name became eternal.